Hello, how are you guys going? This is Cat and welcome back to another review video. Now before we start, I'd like to inform you guys that I will be making a series called 5-minute reviews in which I review a product within 5 minutes or less. I will try and do this with as much depth as the timer will allow me to, and I will make these videos in a more higher quality, if you know what I mean. Thank you, and let's move on. With my normal reviews, I will rank this phone on 4 factors, and these include hardware, software, battery life, and camera. In future, if you guys want me to analyze a certain part of the phone in more detail, please comment down below and let me know. Let's go. So we all know the Lumia is a big phone, and with all big phones we expect big of the best of parts, right? Well, that's just not the case. The hardware components of this phone was one of the main reasons why Microsoft was able to sell the Lumias at a cheaper price tag. Now, the Lumia 640 XL featured a 5.7-inch 720p IPS LCD display, which I almost mistook for an AMOLED panel at first glance. The phone does come with 1GB of RAM with a Snapdragon 400 and a poor 8GB of internal storage. Now this goes without saying, but the parts Microsoft chose would make anyone think that this phone is worthless. Luckily that wasn't the case. Swiping and navigating through the phone felt smooth, and it was a pleasant experience to say the least. The software on this phone was a make it or break it kind of situation. Originally the Lumia came with Windows 8.1 Mobile in 2015. Unfortunately, Microsoft stopped support for Windows 8.1 in July 11th of 2017. And that pretty much made this phone unusable. I was in that same situation a while back and I couldn't figure out why the phone wasn't working. But now I know. Don't worry, this wasn't the end of this phone as Windows 10 rolled around and fixed this issue. Overall, Windows 10 was not a bad experience in my opinion, but I did have one issue, and it was Microsoft Edge. Don't get me wrong, Edge is a completely usable browser, but the only issue with the software is the fact that Edge is needed to do everything. Do you want to make a tweet? Use Edge. Do you want to go on TikTok? Well, you have to use Edge. And what I find even weirder is the Microsoft Edge Store will showcase apps that can only be downloaded on Windows desktop, which kinda makes no sense, seeing as this is a phone. Battery performance on this phone is impressive. I haven't seen a phone last as long as this phone did. With a full charge, I was able to get 3 days of moderate use. Mind you, the standby time on this phone is rated for around 888 hours, which translates to around 37 days, which explains why the battery performance is really good. Now this phone does have a 3000 mAh battery, which is removable, almost like the ones we see on the older Samsung Galaxies, which is pretty nifty. One downside about the battery is the time it takes to charge. 6 hours of charging will get you around 75%, and depending on the charger this does change, but it's not noticeable. Finally, the camera. The camera on this phone is definitely nothing to write home about, but it does get the job done. The Lumia 640 XL does boast a single 13 megapixel main camera with autofocus and a 5 megapixel selfie camera. Both of these cameras are capable of shooting 1080p at 30 fps, which did do a good job at capturing video and images at full HD. Look at these test shots, I am definitely pleased with the camera on this phone. I mean, the phone was released back in 2015 and this was when smartphone cameras were starting to develop and make a name for themselves. I'll give each part of the phone I analyzed a rating out of 10 and add up all the ratings to find the average. Hardware wasn't a strong suit on this phone at all. I mean, this did keep the prices on the phone relatively low, which boosted sales, but this did somewhat cause a hiccup in performance. I'm giving the hardware a 5 out of 10. Software, like I mentioned before, the OS on this phone was definitely a weird experience, as it required Microsoft Edge to do almost anything. And on top of that, the Microsoft Store was for some reason advertising PC applications, which served no purpose to this phone. Software is getting a 4 out of 10. Battery is a completely different story. The phone lasted a long time on a full charge despite its age, and standby time was great. Despite all that, the charging times did bring this rating a bit lower than I would have wanted it to be, but a 7 out of 10 is well deserved. Last but not least, the camera. The camera was just suited for this kind of phone. The phone did take some really nice photos and shoot really great videos, but it didn't amaze me. I'm giving the camera a 6 out of 10. This gives the Microsoft Lumia 640 XL LTE a final score of 22 out of 40, which translates to around 55%. So if this phone is doing a test on all things I spoke about, it will most definitely get a pass. Thank you guys for watching, I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please give me a like, comment, or even subscribe if you'd like. I'll be coming out with more videos hopefully in the future, and I'll see you guys in another video.